Welcome to the Restless Creatives podcast. Comfortable chats with inspiring creatives, hosted by three restless creatives, Lucy Hunter, Fiona Pickles and Bridget Girling. This week we had the pleasure of chatting with Rose Davey, an amazing artist fascinated equally by the role of frames and colour in her art. She is also an extremely knowledgeable and engaging art historian who we first got to know through her amazing lockdown lectures last year, exploring many of her favourite paintings in the National Gallery. We meet her here at an interesting time just before she has her second child. And at the end of the podcast, there's an unexpected delivery. Hello!
Hello. Hello.
How are you, Rose?
Oh, I'm okay, thanks. How are you guys?
Good, I'm good, thank you. So can you see our names? Because you don't know us from Adam.
Yes, I can.
So I'm Fiona.
Hi, Fiona.
Bridget and Lucy.
Hi.
I've watched so much of you, I feel like I know you so well.
No.
I know, it's always the way, isn't it?
Oh, that's very kind of you. For you.
No,
not
it
at all.
is. It's amazing. No, and that's, basically just want to say thank you so much for joining us, because it felt to me when we talked about doing this podcast, your name came straight to my head because of what you've been doing with the lockdown and the lockdown lectures and things, and it just is perfect for what we wanted to talk about, isn't it? It was just exactly what we wanted to do and that sort of thing, and we were like, oh, she is perfect. So we were over the moon when you said yes.
And we could squeeze you in.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Oh,
time
God,
next
yes.
week could be interesting.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Are you going to be all right? You don't need to.
Oh no, I'll be fine. I just kind of need to shift sometimes if I'm getting kicked by
Oh.
Mr. Waffles, as the baby is
Mr.
affectionately known. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but that's what my
Oh.
3-year-old son refers to it.
Oh.
Oh, you must let us know afterwards.
Yes.
What you've got.
Yes, I will.
When are you due?
I'm booked in for a C-section
Okay.
a week today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Exciting times.
So yeah, it's all quite strange really, having like a definite date and stuff. But no, it's the lovely thing to be able to focus on in these strange times. So
Yeah, definitely.
good.
Bit like your lectures. They've been a lovely thing to focus on.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, well, they definitely got me through. It was really nice to have kind of something to focus on each week. Starting in April last year, and it felt like a night out as well, because we'd definitely crack open the booze after. It was quite good fun.
So was it your husband, your partner behind the scenes, sort of?
It was, yeah, it was. He claims it was his idea to do them as well, which I'm not actually sure is true. But yeah, he was very supportive, and he was head of all things technical, because he kind of works in business, so he was kind of used to Zoom and all those things before lockdown happened. And obviously, like most people, I had never heard of it, let alone kind of tried to give it a go. So it was useful having his knowledge.
So when we come out of lockdown, are you going to keep this going? Because I think we'll miss you if you don't.
Oh, I mean, I'd love to. I've really enjoyed it. I mean, because obviously the baby's going to put a slight spanner in the works. But there's a few things that I'm planning on doing. I'm part of a symposium through the Slade in March, so I'm doing a kind of talk on colour in the National Gallery, looking at 5 paintings. That'll be fun. And there's a few other lectures I'd love to do, but ideally I'd just love my own TV show. I want to be the next Sister Wendy. Don't know if you remember The Nun.
Oh, yes.
I used to talk about paintings. So that'd be my ambition. So I'm trying. So I'm trying to figure out kind of how to make that happen one way or another.
I think
Have any
you'd be
connections?
awesome.
I think you're perfect for it. Do you have any connections to that world?
Well, a few. Like I've kind of been trying to make connections with kind of producers and people at the BBC, and I've had a couple of Zoom chats, which has been really helpful and encouraging. It's just this thing of you just need to keep plugging away, and also you need to be or one kind of needs to be very different from the people who are already out there. But from my mind, I feel that, you know, painting, because that's really what I look at, I think the way that painting is talked about needs a bit of a kind of refresh in terms of historical painting, because so often it's to do with symbolic value, it's to do with perhaps religious narrative, and I think that can kind of cut some people off because you're not really actually dealing with what you can see in front of you. So I very much want to approach it as you might a more contemporary painting and abstract painting, and talk about it in the way that students and artists talk about their own work in terms of light and color and form. And all of a sudden, as a viewer, you can actually see what somebody's talking about, rather than think, well, I have no idea about the Renaissance, or I don't really kind of understand the philosophy behind, you know, particular concepts from the 15th century. Because artists are good in 1500 for the same reasons they're good in 2021. It's to do with how they kind of use their materials. So that's kind of what I want to try and exist in, that gap which I think exists within talking about painting.
I think it absolutely does exist, and that's basically how we found you, because, you know, I mean, I found you sometime during lockdown. I can't remember when, and I can't remember how. And it's one of those things, isn't it? You get to a stage of life where it's like, I really wish I knew a bit more about the history of art, but you think, I'm so useless, it's such a huge topic, I know nothing about it, and it scares the hell out of me.
Yes, and those names are unpronounceable.
Yeah. I struggle with lots of
like, but then you just make it so accessible to, and it equates so much to what we do as well, our designs, and, you know, the way that the movement and the negative space and the colours and all that, and it was amazing how much it resonated, actually. And
good.
You did this amazing thing with you know, the painting where the couple are holding hands, or holding hands.
The Arnolfini portrait.
Yeah. He's doing that.
Yes. I mean, your explanation of that whole painting was just incredible. But then when you said, and now turn it round, upside down. And it was like, oh my goodness, now I can and it actually did remind me of something that I do remember being told in an art lesson for O level or something, just showing how old I am. But I'd totally forgotten it, and I thought, actually, we should do that with some of our pictures of our work, because
I thought you were going to say floral designs then, and we'll fall out of the box if we turn upside down, Bridge.
No, but to be able
to do it.
See it. Yeah, no, that would be awesome. To see it in a completely, because you see what you want to see, don't you? And you see and suddenly all of that story is removed, and you're just seeing colour and light and positioning and shape, which your brain doesn't let you see when you're seeing a picture. So I thought that it just blew my mind. You were just so good at explaining what to look at. And I thought, how many hours have you spent looking at this?
A lot.
Her son knows it, so she obviously has it.
Well, it's a great thing about the National Gallery, you can just wander in. But it's so great to hear you link it back to kind of what you guys do, because I think it really is one and the same. You know, I think, Fiona, you mentioned a minute ago about like negative space and things like that, and you know, when you're kind of organizing, as you all do, kind of flowers and floral arrangements, you know, what sets them apart is that you are actually considering all those things, and so much of it is instinctive, but it's kind of inherent and it's there, and you're making all these decisions. And I don't know if you guys find this, but it's exhausting, like it is doing a painting, because you don't actually appreciate how much your brain is working in terms of getting just balance of structure and shape and color and, like, you know, spaces, breathing kind of areas. And it's exactly the same thing in painting, and it's quite a hard thing to talk about, and it's a hard thing to teach as well, because it's through doing it and experience, and through instinctively being drawn to something and not to another thing. So, and it's got to start with just looking and doing, rather than huge amounts of theory, which put people off often.
And I think the huge amounts of theory as well can make it really inaccessible to people.
Definitely.
Which I think the theory is incredibly important, but it's the language you use, and that's what was so fabulous about what you're doing, is that you make it sort of understandable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's sort of really refreshing, really
Oh,
refreshing
good.
to hear what
Well,
you're. Yeah.
thank you. But often, because I've had like 7 years of art education, and I'll read stuff in galleries and books, and I have no idea what they're talking
Yeah,
about. And I just think, so if I've not got a clue, how is anyone else going to engage with this? And it can be really frustrating. And also, I think there's some incredible art historians out there who write brilliantly, but then there are also people who I think almost treat talking about painting like a creative writing kind of exercise, and can sometimes get so far away from the object itself it just becomes an art form in itself, and that too I think can be difficult. So it's always kind of finding that balance, because obviously the history and the symbolism and the social context are all important, and I'm not for 1 minute saying ignore that, but it's just half of the story.
Well, I think it makes sense with your story as well, because frame is obviously very important to you, which I found fascinating.
I know.
And then, and what I thought was really fascinating as well is when you left university and you went to Slade, and was it Bruce,
Bruce McLean, yes.
Yes. And he just said, go and paint in this room or whatever. But what you did with it on the walls and things and the shadows was just incredible. Sort of using the room as your frame somehow, but using frames within frames. And then you had to paint over it.
Yeah. There's a lot of painting white at art school, and a career as an artist, a lot of white. But I was so lucky to have Bruce as a tutor, and to also have those opportunities at the Slade. And that's the thing, I think, as artists, like, you just see things, you just go for it, you just don't think about it too much. And that's always what Bruce was saying, it's just do it, try it out, take it outside, make it bigger. Like you were saying, turn it upside down, make it out of like clay, make it out of paper, make it out of biscuits. It's everything's got to remain a possibility, because as soon as you start kind of shutting things down, you start to you get narrow and narrow, and I struggle with that, and then I always have to kind of break out, and then I always end up back in the frame. But it's
do you think when you go out and then come back, it helps inform what you're doing going forward, or just makes it easier to do what you're doing?
I think it definitely informs. I think going away from something, doing whatever it might be, coming back, you always come back with kind of so much more kind of vigor and a richness of experience that always benefits you. So, and also it's interesting that ideas don't become exhausted nowhere near as quickly as you think they might. I can't remember which artist said it, but it said, I think it was Rothko who said, if a thing is worth doing once, it's worth doing over and over and over and over again. And I think there is some worth in that. But also, there's got to be points when you lift your head up. And I mean that because I'm sure you guys have it the same in what you're doing, you get so invested and you actually just need to step away from it. And when I had my first child, being away from the studio for a year, which I was quite anxious about, was actually the best thing that could have happened to me.
So where do you get your inspiration from then? Everywhere?
I think everywhere. Like I think there's often this idea that artists might get inspiration from quite kind of epic, sublime sources, like a kind of incredible experience or a huge tragedy. When actually, I think I've mentioned this in the past, like the color of my handbag kept me going for a year. Or, like a kind of a combination of bottle tops that have been left on the table, or it can be a landscape, light, sunset, things that I think things just pop in all the time, and it's color that inspires me, and I think it's colors that are just coming from my day-to-day experience, and what they can do when you put them next to one another. That's kind of what really excites me. But then also looking at the work of other artists, whether that be friends or people in kind of contemporary shows, or institutions like Tate Britain or the National Gallery. So I would just say it's everywhere really, but I guess for me, I'm also continually, I don't know if inspired, or continually kind of trying to figure out this mechanism of the frame that we've all become so used to. You know, we're all looking at it now. I can see the door behind me, like guys,
Yeah.
frames behind you. We're talking through
Loads of
frames.
frames.
Yeah, is this such an interesting this device where you create this kind of space that suddenly anything is possible within it?
I
So
thought
you
it was, sorry.
Sorry, Bridge, go on.
I was going to say, I thought it was quite interesting when you did the exhibition and you all had your own space, and you said something about people didn't creep into each other's space, which you thought they might, but they didn't. They were terribly polite about it.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting, because you would have thought somebody just think, you know what, I can't resist it. Just go and do something.
I know. I think that was maybe the personality of the artist we had. I think what you're talking about, Fiona, is a exhibition we did called "A Wall Is a Surface," which was a while ago. All I think it was about 10 artists or something, yeah, all working on walls next to one another. And the idea was kind of that people would paint on each other's stuff, but no one wanted to, which is kind of a shame, because collaboration can be a beautiful thing, but
did you all
it
know
depends
each
on the
other?
artist.
Did they all...
We kind of did know each other, but there were some big artists in that show. There was Martin Creed was in the show, Richard Woods was in the show, and two of our people who taught us at the Slade, Gary Woodley and Klaus Hook, were also in the show. So
you're not going to go and paint on their wall, are you?
No, but probably should have done.
Yeah.
It would have been a good opportunity.
Yeah.
They would have probably welcomed it. But yeah, that was part of an exhibition that I'd done a series of projects with a friend, Sarah Kate Wilson, and Show Off is our latest one. And it's brilliant because since 2010 we work with artists from all different ages, different generations, and that's always so much fun, because there's a real nice leveling thing as well when you're all together, and artists aren't billed, above one another like you might imagine on a kind of set for like a festival kind of lineup or something. And that's great, because it's just, you can all just learn off each other, and you all just realize that no one really knows what they're doing. It's
You
just
just
that some
figure it
people,
out.
some people have just got more exposure, just got a better mortgage or something, I don't know, but
Bigger mortgage.
Bigger mortgage. But yeah, working with other artists is great fun, because do you guys work together? Do you do stuff together creatively?
That's kind of how we know each other, how we've become
so you
friends.
work on projects together.
Yeah. Not last year.
No. Hence talking to each other through these frames.
Yeah.
But it's great, isn't it? Because you think something that you hadn't even thought of, someone else comes in and changes it all up. And it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
And
I'd
it's
like
also
someone
typical.
working in my area, though. I think I would struggle with that. You know, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Somebody starts working on my design, it'd be like, no.
Back off.
Yeah. Or took that beautiful dahlia that you'd set aside.
Yeah. Stand away from the dahlia.
Yeah. There's definitely that element to it as well. You've gone too far.
Yes. So when you did the lockdown lectures, who did you have in mind? Was it students? Was it people like us who haven't really got
a clue?
I mean, because the lockdown lectures, they were originally written for graduate painting students at the Slade.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
So I was hoping, I don't know who I thought was going to watch them. My mum and dad, which they did. Thanks, mum and dad. No, I was really hoping actually that people who didn't have a background in art were going to watch them. And as some of the things that I've done more recently, I've wanted things to become more accessible. So because the lectures, I read them, a lot of them, and they're quite dense, and there's a lot of information in there. So my hope was that people were going to enjoy them that weren't familiar with the paintings I was talking about. And I was so pleased to receive a lot of feedback from people who had not any experience of the National Gallery or, Van Eyck or Piero della Francesca or whatever, and really enjoyed them. So that for me was so important to hear, because that's the kind of whole idea, really, just to get people to feel more confident in their own vision as well. That's why kids are so great when you take them to a gallery, because they just say, what's that? Look at that there. Isn't that weird? You know, who's this? Who's that? That looks like blah, blah, blah. And they just don't have a filter. And it's such an exciting way to talk about painting. And often, myself included, you know, as adults looking at works, you feel you need to say something intelligent. And it's just really boring. And you're not actually really talking about anything because you're so self-conscious about
So
what
why
you're
do you get to
saying.
reveal your stupidity, aren't you?
Exactly.
Say
When
something that you should know.
yeah,
Exactly.
like it's much more interesting when someone kind of identifies, I don't know, the devil as Christ instead or something, I don't know, or like you just think, oh, I'm sure those pebbles look like little penises, and like I'm sure those hands look like a vagina, you know, let's talk about that. That's much more interesting, and we can all see it, it's there, like you can see what I'm talking about, you know. That's and then you can do a bit of everything, and you can, maybe someone's there who's then got a really incredible knowledge of, I don't know, the Bible, and can talk about the narrative, and that's great too. But it should just be this much more rounded conversation, I think.
I loved your previews as well that you did, where you sort of like did the teaser and then you had those little clips of you going woohoo and things like that.
Yeah, oh, they were quite nice to do, and that was also hello, him indoors. Hi, Jay.
Keep that bit in.
It was all his idea.
Yeah, exactly.
He got shy. Yeah, that was another good thing. I learned film editing in lockdown, so that was a good skill to acquire. And also like through Instagram, because I think I joined Instagram like 2019, I think, like September 2019. And so like just getting used to that format as a way to communicate to people, and also social media, because I'm not big on social media. I haven't really used it at all up until like a couple of years ago, so that's been a whole other interesting thing as well, the kind of to use it, enjoy it, but then to also understand the seduction of it as well.
Well, I think it's perfect for you though, isn't it? Because like I think the first thing I saw was your Artemisia IGTV, which was shorter than the actual lockdown, wasn't it? And it was
it was
like a potted version, and it was completely accessible. And then you sort of go into the actual lockdown lecture itself, but it was perfect. You know, I could just sit there with my phone and just watch a bit, and it was amazing. Good. So it's perfect.
And I was very lucky to be helped with by a good friend, Butchie Davey. I'm no relation, unfortunately, but yeah, because he helped me with the editing. And it's just great, like working with other people as well, because he kind of directed me a bit, because he knows all about kind of film editing and all that kind of thing. So yeah, like lockdown, although it's been tricky, it's brilliant that it's offered all these opportunities to you just would stuff you wouldn't do.
Yes, that pause has forced time to sort of think and reflect and explore.
Almost allow us to do things that we didn't feel that we really being purposeful, because we all have to be purposeful all the time, busy, and that's what, and actually lockdown has allowed us to explore that creativity, possibly.
Completely,
So, we wouldn't be doing this without lockdown, would we? I mean, that's the whole. I mean, we were doing this very informally for months, and then I think Lucy, you just suddenly said, "Why don't we do a podcast?" And
yes, I had a mad moment.
Had a few drinks.
You always need a few drinks. It's great.
Why not?
That was only a few weeks ago, wasn't it? And like we're now launching.
I know, we've got a website and everything.
I know, your website's beautiful. It's great.
Well, Fiona's
that's Fiona.
Well, not all me, but
it's a large moment, wasn't it? Well, 80% of it.
Yeah.
Yes, we've divvied up the jobs quite nicely, haven't we?
Yes.
Yes, I haven't done very much at all, which has been brilliant.
That isn't true.
Oh,
you did the logo.
Yes, exactly.
Logo. Yeah.
When was the last time you guys actually saw each other in real life?
Last January.
Year ago.
Last January.
Oh wow, amazing! Yeah, long time.
Actually, it probably is just about now. You guys were here at my house, weren't you?
Yeah.
And we had no idea this was going to be upon us. I mean, can you believe that we just was so
blasé?
We knew nothing about what was down the track.
Probably just as well, though.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's true.
So what's been
Wild.
sanity through all of this, apart from lockdown lectures, which obviously it's clearly you've enjoyed? What's been your sanity?
I think I filled 3 sketchbooks, and that's been really therapeutic. I've got them here actually, because I just would come in and just like, I don't know if you can really see, but just do some just doodles.
Oh my god!
And
Beautiful.
that's been great because it's basically like colouring in really. And then
You could sell that. That is just gorgeous.
And then
send it to a publisher.
A few kind of things that I write down as well, because I had a friend over a few months ago, and the sketchbooks were out, and he picked it up and was looking through them, which was fine. And then he said, "Oh, that's what do you mean when we say that?" And I kind of think, God, actually, they're really personal. I write random things that I never think anyone else is going to read. So I was like, I don't know.
I don't know.
That's not really the point. Not for you. But they were really that was really kind of therapeutic, just to just have like a little kind of space just to get out whatever it is that you want to get out, and for no kind of particular agenda, they're not for exhibition or anything else.
Do you have a sort of routine through the day, or have you developed one? I guess it's hard with a small child.
Yeah, well, we're so lucky at the moment that James is at nursery. So I've been, at the moment, I'm just trying to get everything done before the baby comes. But but kind of early on in lockdown, when obviously nothing was open and we had James, my husband and I would just meet every morning at breakfast, and he would go, right, I've got a meeting here, I've got this here, and I'd go, okay, well, can I slot 45 minutes in here and then do this? And then so it was this kind of routine of planning each day, but each day would be completely different. And then also just things like have a which I'm sure everyone can relate to, like have a WhatsApp group with people I went to the Slade with. And people just send hilarious work through that they've been making, or just random stuff, and that just really makes me laugh, and it just really lifts my spirits. So that's nice. It's amazing how one joke or image or comment can pull you out of like a dark mood or a dark place. So those kind of contacts have been a savior. I think early on, like everyone, the whole kind of like Zoom quiz phase in the beginning of lockdown was good for a while, and then it was like, oh, no more.
I'm still having to do a weekly Trivial Pursuit meeting.
Well done, Fiona. Good for you.
It is. Anyway.
I think a lot of people would have had the, how do I get out of this regular Zoom?
It's not like you can suddenly say, oh, you know what, I'm meeting so.
I know.
Exactly. Everyone knows you're there.
Yeah.
Tricky. How about you guys? What's got you through?
This Zoom.
My garden.
This Zoom's helped.
Yeah. I guess we're
kind
of lucky because we're all really into our gardens. I mean, and we're very fortunate that we've got gardens. So and as they develop and they continually change, every day is different in the garden. Even if it's a slow change, there's always something new that you can go and find, and it's just a great place to just get lost and absorbed and watch the robin or
chop a few trees down.
Chop a few trees down.
Small
that
wood.
sounds fun.
It was fun.
So I guess
I did a mural.
Yeah, you did do a mural.
I did a mural.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was it of?
Amazing. I don't know really.
Lucy, you're really underselling it though. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's a bit of an Italian landscape thing, but I haven't painted since I was at
That's
uni.
Amazing.
And I just haven't at all. And it was one of those things I just thought, do you know what? Got absolutely nothing else to do. And I'm not going to do it for anybody. I'm just going to do it for me. And I loved it. It was so nice.
Great.
Yeah. Honestly, you need to look at it, Rose, because it's just beautiful.
I'd love to see it.
It's on my Instagram.
Okay, I'll check it out. Brilliant.
That's a bit stressful. Lectures at the Slade.
Oh,
I know.
It means nothing.
I noticed you haven't turned your computer around and gone, there it is. It's funny that though, isn't it? Lucy is just super talented, and yet, yes, you are. You can seem to turn your hand to anything, and yet I think, and maybe this is just fundamental to being creative and artistic. You never quite believe yourself, do you? You just think.
I think there is an element of that, and I think, not to bring kind of sex into it, but I do think it is. I think women kind of seem to struggle more with saying, actually, I'm really talented and I'm really good at what I do, and you should go and have a look at it, because I think it's definitely something I struggle with, in terms of trying to get out there and put yourself out there, whatever that means, or speak to the right people, or be a bit pushy, all that kind of thing. And it's I kind of find it really difficult, and just think, oh well, maybe someone will look at my paintings after I'm dead, and I could go, that could be interesting. But then I'm like, no, come on, that's not good enough. But then I'm like, well, do I care? Does it matter? It's I think a lot. I don't know. I say that I think a lot of artists are perhaps not great at being kind of upfront about what they do or their own talent, but then I think a lot of them are at the same time.
Don't want to be seen to be too
I think some people might even over egg their pudding. So I'm not sure, and there's not a rule for all.
No, that's very true.
So what are you going to do next then, Rose? I mean, obviously you're having a baby, but what are you going to do? What you did last time and just like have a year out, or?
Yeah, but that was, I don't know, to be honest.
Having just had a year out.
Yeah, I know. Year in the weird space. I'm gonna kind of see what happens, and when I say that, I mean see how I feel after the kind of baby's arrived, because I definitely know that I want to like try and pursue, kind of talking and communicating about art. And there's actually a Carlo Cavelli exhibition that's coming up in 2022 at the Icon in Birmingham, and he's like one of my favorite Renaissance painters. So I want to try and get something going for that, like try and come up with, I don't know, an idea for a TV program or radio program, because that would be a great opportunity, and that could be something to work towards within a time frame. I'd also like to do more lectures, hoping to do some more at the Slade, and it'd be teaching at the Slade Summer School if that kind of gets going again. And then for my own work, I'll be back in the studio when I feel ready. And I feel very content about that now. I think before I had the time out after my first child, it was that feeling of, well, maybe I won't want to go back in. Maybe that'll be it for me. And it was such a kind of flurry of creative activity when I did find myself back in the studio. It was great, really, because it was like, okay, yeah. So this is something that's very important to me, will always be there, and there doesn't need to be anxiety around leaving it alone for a year or whatever. It's not like it disappears, It's there, and also you use it in like other ways. Last time when I had a year out, we actually were moving house, and so I was choosing loads of colors for the house and loads of stuff. And my friend was actually like, yeah, you do realize that your house is like your artwork, like the colors are all the same. And she was like, this is what you've been doing. And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. So, and I think that's the same for, everyone, even people who aren't artists. People are creative every single day in various ways, in their house and their work, whatever. And it's often you don't realize you're doing it, and sometimes it takes someone else to point that out to you. So yeah, just because someone might say they're an artist doesn't mean like not everyone's actually at it all the time, just in different ways.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we do have a tendency to sort of see it in a box somewhere, and only some people can do it. And I think you've absolutely nailed it. Everybody's creative, but so many people go, oh, I can't sing, I can't paint, I can't draw, can't do anything. And it's just not true. You're just not thinking about what it is to be creative.
And those are often the best people who don't think they're creative. They're the most creative. Because it's great when I teach on the Slade Summer School, because you get people often have no art background, just thought, oh, maybe I'll try this out. You know, haven't done it before. Like you were saying, Lucy, you know, you hadn't done painting for ages, and then they might think, oh, I'll just pick it up again. And actually everyone has such unique ways of approaching things. And it's just confidence. And if you've got the confidence just to even go there or give it a try, that's all you need. And then you start to see that, oh, I've got so much to say and do. Once you lose your inhibition and you lose the idea that you're not creative, or you can't paint, or you can't draw. And that's why it's, you know, drawing and painting, art, whatever, it's brilliant, because there's just no rules. Just do whatever you want.
So I mean, I am one of those classic people, and I cannot draw. You know, I grew up.
You can, Fiona.
I was horse obsessed, and I can draw a horse.
Oh, they're difficult.
I was going to say.
But I have to say, watching your program about your work, it's actually made me think, I'm actually going to give it a go, because I don't have to draw as in drawing.
Doesn't have to be representational.
Just watching some of those things that you'd framed, and it was like the texture of the whatever it was you'd sort of like drawn onto or painted onto, and it's like, oh my god, that's just what I do in my flowers anyway. So you know, just take it to another stage and do it. And it's actually really inspired me to actually try something like that. So
good. Yeah, do it.
Yeah, so you don't need to conform to what other people think is art.
No. And I was actually stopping myself.
No one knows what art is.
Yeah.
No one has a clue what art is. Anyone who says they do, lying.
Yeah, it's whatever you're making or doing.
Yeah, it's an interesting question to ask and try and answer, but yeah, it's very tricky.
I thought it was fascinating when your mum said that your work reminded her of cheese boards.
I knew you were going to bring the cheese into
I just thought that was the reason why I thought that was fascinating is because it kind of reminded me of my mum. My mum is a great leveler. You know, and I thought that's the kind of thing I could see my mum coming out with. Your work reminds me of cheese boards. And I thought, well, first of all, how did you actually initially take that? But then, because you could have just thought, oh my goodness, right, well, that's it then. Obviously, you know your mum, you know what she was trying to say. But you went with it. And then when you let people start cutting on, but it was actually a remarkable piece of work that you kind of created, really. I thought it was just wonderful. I'd love to know more about what was actually going on in your head when that all happened.
Yeah, it's funny. My mum now denies saying this, which is not true. I remember it 100%. She claims it was my brother that said it. It wasn't. It was my mum. And she, because my mum is a brilliant artist as well, and as well, not like, and she actually taught me at school, and she, like, a bit like in the vein of Bruce McLean, she's always kind of like, what about this, what about that, you know, she was always trying to get students to think out of the box, which is brilliant, because I grew up down in Minehead on the kind of border of Devon and Somerset, where not many people kind of have the opportunity to go out and see different things. So she was always kind of pushing people out of their comfort zone. And I think that's kind of what she was doing when she said that. But she also just thought it was quite funny. But there was definitely something in it, because she was right to a certain extent. And I think I spoke about this in the talk, but I didn't do it properly initially, because when I thought, okay, I'll put some cheese on my paintings then and see how it goes. And it was, you know, this kind of very carefully laid out table with grapes on one, crackers, cheese, and I think a knife on another one, and a sign that said do not eat or do not touch. Yeah. So it remained this thing, this precious object. And really the whole point of putting cheese on your work is surely that you could eat it. So when I had the opportunity to do it again at the Tetley in Leeds, it was brilliant, because I was like, right now I just need to do it properly. So I had one painting on the wall to make that distinction between kind of cheese board and painting, you know, and that they're really one and the same. And it was so funny, because there was maybe like three or four other artists in this. It was kind of an event, an edible painting event, and there was a sequence to kind of someone had made these incredible drinks and someone had made these kind of pizza things, and you did one at a time, and mine was the last because I was the cheese. And people have kind of been looking, you know, at the cheese like you do an artwork, very slowly, kind of moving around with their hands behind their back, and then it was like someone blew a whistle, and all of a sudden it went from artwork to cheese, because I couldn't even get in to take photographs because everyone had like gone for it. I mean, I spent a bit of money on the cheese. There was good cheese, but it was hilarious, and it was it was so like a million times better than the first time. And it was just that thing, like, you know, be brave, don't be too precious about stuff. It's just it's just things, you know, because maybe with what you guys make, you know, you can make something because it's taken time, obviously, and care and energy. You treat it in this really precious way, but actually you're doing no favors to what it is you're making, because you put it on this like pedestal that actually prevents it from having a life outside itself, which could be much more exciting by changing up the context of it. So yeah, thanks, Mum. It was good to do that, and I'd love to go back to that idea and try and develop it somehow.
Did you keep the original paintings with all the sort of stab wounds?
Yeah, I've got,
I see them as stab wounds and fatty marks.
Amazingly, they came out pretty well. I think 3 of them. I don't think they probably don't know this actually. I think 3 of them might be in
sold.
No, they're on loan in a place called Coom's Head down in Cornwall, which is like run by Tom Adams, and I don't think he knows that he's got artworks on his wall that are actually cheese boards. He does now. So yeah, because I was like, yeah, you can have those, thinking they were cheese boards. But it kind of works because it's a restaurant. So,
okay. Oh, it does.
That's good.
Right, we have got a silly moment for you.
Brilliant.
5 quick questions.
Okay.
I'm just going to get them up.
Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. They are really silly. We're going to be sort of asking everybody these silly questions. Okay, first one. What did you have for supper last night?
Oh, I had sausages, lentil kind of stew.
Nice.
That sounds really good. I'm trying really hard to remember what I had for supper.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And were you the cook?
No, my husband does all the cooking.
So does mine.
Yeah, so does mine.
I have a husband in training, but he does most of it. Right. Next question. What do you prefer? Dirty feet or dirty hands?
Dirty hands. I can't stand dirty feet.
Yes, thank you. That's yes. Makes me cringe every time Bridget even says.
You're like, oh no, not this point.
Like, oh god.
It's a vote for dirty hands.
Any day.
Who's ever going to go for dirty feet?
This is a really easy one. Somebody will.
I suppose maybe if you paint with your feet or something.
Exactly. I got
They
it.
wouldn't remain dirty though, would they? You would clean them afterwards. Oh
yeah.
I've just got images of people walking on your cheese board now with their feet.
Oh, here we go.
Get a dirty foot person, let me know. I'll send them some paintings.
Yeah. Great.
Right, coffee or tea? This is easy.
Oh, coffee.
Oh, okay. Every time?
No. I was torn. Yeah.
I struggle with that because I drink both.
Yeah, me too.
One in the morning, one in the afternoon.
But what's the one that wakes you up? What's the one you have to have when you get out of bed?
I actually have tea and then at about 9 or 10 I have coffee. So tea.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same.
I'm not. I'm a heavy caffeine girl. And you, Bridge.
Plenty of caffeine in tea. But I have to start the day with tea. If I can't start the day with tea, it's not right. But then, like you, I go on to coffee about 10:30.
Yeah.
I have to have coffee to make my eyes actually open.
Exactly. Yeah.
None of this, the sunshine wakes you up. It's got...
Exactly. Large, big pots.
So, what was the last book you read?
Oh God. A collection of short stories by Roald Dahl.
I wondered if it might be something along those lines.
I can't remember the very last one in the book, but yeah, I'm not a big reader. I'm not very good at reading. But I did read that
actually.
a few months ago. Yeah, I read like art books for like research, but yeah, I'm not a big reader.
Oh, so this wasn't reading to your son?
No, it's adult books.
Oh, I see.
Adult books, adult stories. Yeah, Roald Dahl's adult stories.
Last night or whatever.
No, that would have been. Oh God, you read a bit of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang last night.
There you go.
We did Roald Dahl. We did the screenplay. That's weird. No, it was short stories for adults. Roald Dahl.
Oh, very good.
Oh, might have to look that up actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, the really good one is the story of Henry Sugar. It's good. It's weird.
Okay.
And the Swan. That's very dark. Yeah.
Okay, then I
anyway.
feel quite tempted by that.
Yeah, the Swan. Read that one if you want to be a bit freaked out.
Okay.
Not before bed.
Right, last one. Now this really is easy. Wine or gin?
Oh, wine. Oh, gin too.
Yeah, me too.
All of the above.
Both at the same
Just, yeah,
time.
both. Yeah, anything, wine or beer, both.
Together.
I mean, I've been missing it, but yeah.
Oh gosh, yes,
Ooh,
of
I can't
course.
wait.
I shouldn't
I've
ask you that question.
No, I've had the odd glass. I found some quite good non-alcoholic beers, so yeah.
As of next week.
Yeah, I'll be on it. Not really. Have social services around.
Yes.
So is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd like us to talk about before we let you go?
I think just how important art education is for children as well. I think my other thing, I've worked with a charity called the Art Room in the past, and some stuff with youth offending services, and it's incredible what the arts can do for children in terms of confidence. And I just think it's a crying shame that government haven't properly understood the benefit of the creative subjects, not in terms of I'm going to do music, so I'm a musician, I'm going to, do drama, so I'm going to be an actor, or art to be an artist. It's just about developing those skills and forming relationships through creativity, and also just having the confidence in your own personal logic that you can only really explore more through the creative subjects. So that's something that, and for me growing up in a kind of small town, art was it was a kind of an open door for so many people to get out of a small town and to go and have many different experiences and many different careers, not all in art, in politics and medicine and design, journalism, engineering, and that was through a kind of development of art as a subject and art as opening up possibilities. And I just think within schools it just needs to be taken much more seriously as a subject. So that's the only thing I'd like.
I think that's a really beautiful way of putting it. Opening up possibilities. Art opens up possibilities. It does. It just frees your brain.
It does.
Yeah.
It does completely.
Yeah, and I think for employers looking to hire staff in whatever career, you're looking to someone who can come up with ideas, come up with new ways to do something, work creatively with other people, and art can really prepare you for that. And why kind of it's not respected more I think is really troubling, because also it is the subject that can lift a child out of isolation, feeling kind of cut off, and when a child makes something and you just think, God, that's brilliant. And I remember when I was with the children, and I would kind of think, oh, if they just put a bit of blue there, or I put that, and they would do something differently, and it was always so much better than what I was thinking in my head, because they were just in the zone, doing it freely, and it was brilliant and magical to watch.
It is wonderful when you see little, really small children who haven't yet been told by anybody, put it here or do that, or does that really look like a house? I mean, they're sort of, their ability to just enjoy the process, the getting messy and dirty, feet or hands, and just doing is wonderful. They don't
and what we're
loving the process.
Absolutely. And I think, like Fiona mentioned, she had done some drawing recently, Lucy going back to doing some painting. Like, we can also have that experience as adults as well. If we can find a space where we can let ourselves go and not be self-conscious, we too can experience that. It's just really hard to get there. So I think that needs to, people need to remember that.
You need that television program to make people do it.
Yes, it's true.
This is going to be our campaign. Get Rose on telly.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you've been awesome.
We knew you would be.
Yeah. Don't. Blah, 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 blah.
No, but I mean, joking apart, that is half of your appeal. You know, it's just like you're so good at putting things across, quite complicated things that you just seem to be able to just find the words, and so brilliant. Talking about those portraits and stuff, just the words, and it just seemed to roll naturally, and it's like, oh my god.
The most important thing really is not taking yourself too seriously and being stuck up your own backside, and that's you're not.
So if I am, my mum will tell me.
Exactly. Make some
which is good. But no, it's funny, but I mean,
the art world, a lot of the art world is of what is traditionally seen as the art world is.
It's true.
And that I mean, you touched on it before, but that puts this barrier, and you think that you can't then, but you can. You just got to keep being curious and keep and just doing your own thing and not giving a damn what anybody else thinks. But it's actually very difficult to get.
It's really hard. It's really hard, and I'll be 37 next week. And I remember it's taken me a long time to get to this point, because I remember very clearly sat in lectures at Edinburgh University, seminars, completely mute, art history seminars. And I was state educated, and Edinburgh was a lot of public school, privately educated students there, and it just meant they were very confident, and they were very self-assured of their own voice. And I just used to sit there not saying anything, and then I used to think, oh my god, that's saying so much. I hope no one asks me to say anything. And then you kind of think, after probably about a year, you think, hang on a minute, what are they talking about?
I know, exactly.
They're just talking absolute rubbish, but confidently. And then you start to think, okay, so it's just, you can do it. You just need to have the confidence to get it wrong, and you don't, not use all kind of elaborate words and vocabulary. But it's taken me a long time to feel confident enough to to speak in the way I kind of do now. So but
how do you describe yourself?
Pardon?
How do you describe yourself? Do you call yourself an artist?
Artist and art historian.
I wondered if you were going to say art historian.
Yeah, but it's funny, because even when I say that, I feel like I don't have a right to say that.
But exactly what you mean,
because I don't have a PhD, and I haven't been formally published or any of that kind of thing. But you just think, it doesn't really matter. I teach various places and done various things. Just don't worry about it. Like you said, Lucy, just don't take yourself too seriously. Don't worry too much.
Life's too short.
Yeah, exactly. And no one really cares.
Nobody cares. They're too busy looking at themselves to care what you're doing anyway, aren't they? So.
I sometimes think that, you worry about stuff and you're like, oh, actually, no one cares. Everyone's
Nobody's
looking
even
at you
noticed.
anyway. Exactly. So,
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
So I'm welcome. It's my pleasure. And I hope
Yeah,
I get
thank
to meet
you.
you all in real life.
Oh yes,
Oh,
with some wine and gin.
Yeah, I'll be ready.
And
cheese.
and then go
And
for
cheese.
wine and cheese.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be amazing. I'd love that. 100%.
Yeah,
Perhaps
that would be
we
really
can
cool.
come to your Slade's summer school.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
How cool
Oh my
would that
God.
be, girls? I was
That would be
thinking that. I was
brilliant.
actually...
Trouble is, we'd be the naughty three at the back.
Yeah, be like,
okay.
can you listen, please? No, that'd be so good. Yeah, it's a 2-week course that we do,
Oh, I'd love that.
and it's
Love that
really
so
good
much.
fun.
Yeah,
It's a
really.
lot of giggling.
Sounds like our cup of tea.
Yeah. Is there wine?
Yep. Yeah, it's very
book
much
us up.
part of our so it's taught with me and some other artists who also went to the Slade, and it's very much to do with our experience of the Slade, and wine featured heavily. So yeah.
Right.
It's important to get the the juices flowing.
I think so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At least in the thought processes.
Yeah.
It does. I often say to people, in a serious mode, if you're struggling, go and have a glass of wine, because it's not encouraging alcoholism.
No, I'm with you, Fiona.
Switch the brain off. Yeah, it's just stop thinking.
Yeah.
Doesn't work at 5:30 in the morning though.
No,
No.
maybe
No,
not
and if it
advisory.
is, it could be bad. What's the doorbell? Hang on, it's right there.
Could be an exciting parcel.
It is, I think. Oh, thank you. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thanks so much. Sorry.
Okay.
I think it's a really exciting nursing top. Sexy.
Well, it's come just in time.
Was the baby due on your birthday then?
It's due. My birthday's on the 14th, and it's due on the 3rd of Feb.
Oh.
So yeah, a bit before.
Well,
I hope it all goes well.
Goes well.
Yeah, thank you. I'll let you know what it is.
Yeah, we'd love to know.
The baby.
Yeah.
And as soon as all of this nonsense is over, let's definitely get together.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that'd be awesome. Be something to look forward to.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Oh, I'll stay in touch, and
Yes,
yeah,
do. Take care.
see you in the real world soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Restless Creatives podcast. To ensure that you don't miss our next episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Restless Creatives podcast. If you'd prefer to listen rather than watch us, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts or your favoured podcast provider.